Angela Brooks never planned to be a single mother. At 29, she'd imagined a very different life. One with 2 incomes, shared responsibilities, and weekends that felt a little bit lighter. But life had other plans. Instead of that dream, she found herself standing in a grocery store aisle in Des Moines, Iowa. Her 4-year-old son was tugging at her jacket, asking for a box of colorful cereal, while she was busy calculating prices down to the very last cent. She'd turn and give him a warm smile, but inside, she was drowning in exhaustion. Angela worked full-time as a medical billing assistant. It was a decent job, but it offered zero flexibility. Every time her son got sick, taking a day off felt like a huge risk. Every late pickup from daycare felt like a final warning. Her paycheck would arrive right on time, but it would disappear just as fast. Rent, childcare, utilities, gas, there was never enough left over to feel truly safe. Late at night, long after her son had drifted off to sleep, Angela would sit on the edge of her couch, scrolling endlessly through social media. She'd see posts about self-care, work-life balance, and finding your passion. And she'd let out a quiet, bitter laugh. To her, those weren't real concepts, they were luxuries for other people. Angela's life wasn't about exploration, it was about pure, unadulterated survival. But the hardest part wasn't the constant financial pressure. It was the invisible weight she carried every single moment. There was no backup plan. There was no one to tag in when she was bone-tired. There was absolutely no margin for error. If she failed, there was no safety net to catch her or her son. One night, after tucking her son into bed, Angela locked herself in the bathroom and finally let herself cry. It wasn't a loud, dramatic sob. It was quiet, just enough to release the crushing weight she carried day in and day out. She whispered to the empty room, "I'm trying. I really am." That moment was her lowest point. But strangely, it was also the beginning of everything. The next morning, nothing dramatic happened. There was no sudden burst of motivation, no life-changing epiphany. Instead, Angela made one small, quiet promise to herself: she would stop abandoning herself. Not her son, not her responsibilities, but herself. She realized she had spent years pouring every last ounce of her energy into just surviving, without ever building a future. She wasn't failing, she was just completely and utterly exhausted. So she stopped asking, "How do I escape this?" and started asking a new question: "How do I grow from here?" She started small. Incredibly small. She began waking up just 30 minutes earlier. Not to hustle or be more productive, but simply to think. She would drink her coffee in the quiet stillness of the morning and write down goals. These weren't grand, lofty dreams. They were directions. Stability. Flexibility. Self-respect. She didn't want to be rich. She just wanted room to breathe. Angela started learning new skills related to her job. She dove into coding basics, studied complex healthcare systems, and learned about process optimization. She used her lunch breaks to study. She watched tutorials after her son went to bed. Some nights, she was so tired she would fall asleep with her laptop still open on her chest. Progress was painfully slow. And the voice of doubt in her head was loud. It told her, "You're too tired for this. You don't have the time. Just focus on getting by." But for the first time, she didn't listen. She just kept going. Months passed. On the outside, nothing had changed. She was still in the same apartment, still working the same job. But internally, something profound was shifting. She stopped seeing herself as someone who was just getting by. She started seeing herself as someone who was quietly, secretly building something better. Then one afternoon, her manager noticed the efficiency improvements she had implemented. "How did you learn this?" he asked, genuinely curious. Angela just shrugged and said, "I figured it out." That one simple sentence held more power than she could have ever realized. It was a testament to her quiet, unseen effort. Soon, she was being trusted with more responsibility. Not more hours, but higher-level tasks. She started to build a case for herself, and eventually, she negotiated a few remote workdays each week. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fast. But it was progress. Angela didn't announce her journey on social media. She didn't post about her late-night study sessions. She didn't even fully believe she was succeeding yet. She just kept showing up for herself, day after day. 2 years later, Angela transitioned into a new, fully remote role as a healthcare systems analyst. It was with the same company, but it felt like a different life. No more stressful commutes. More flexibility. More control. On her first morning working from home, her son sat at the kitchen table, happily coloring, while she opened her laptop. The house was quiet. It was calm. And for the first time in years, she felt something completely unfamiliar. Peace. Angela didn't suddenly become wealthy. She still had to budget and plan carefully. But she wasn't drowning anymore. She finally had space. Space to think, space to grow, and space to breathe. One evening, her son looked up from his toys and said something that stopped her in her tracks. "Mom, you're always busy, but you're happy now." A real smile spread across Angela's face. Because he was right. Life hadn't become easy, but she had stopped disappearing inside of it. Today, Angela mentors other single parents. But she doesn't give them rah-rah speeches or motivational quotes. She just tells them the truth. She tells them that you don't need a burst of motivation, you need a foundation of self-respect. You don't need someone else's permission, you need your own consistency. And you don't have to do everything all at once. You just have to stop quitting on yourself in the quiet moments. Angela Brooks didn't change her life overnight. She changed it slowly, quietly, and without any applause. And that is a truth that so many of us need to hear. Success isn't always loud. Strength isn't always visible. And some of the strongest people out there are the ones just doing their best, every single day, without anyone cheering them on from the sidelines. So if you're feeling tired, overwhelmed, and unseen today, please know this: you are not weak. You are building. And one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't just survive. You became something more. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.